Can't win.
Let's go ahead, bring to order the meeting of Templeton Community Services District Board of Directors. Thank you everyone for coming. Tonight, today is October 1st and 7 o'clock. Let's go ahead, have a roll call, please.
Directors English,
Present.
Cardonish,
Here.
Logan. Here. Mortensen
Here.
and Peterson.
Here.
Great, thank you. Let's go ahead, stand for a pledge of allegiance. If you can.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, before I forget, our general manager, he's attending via Zoom, so I'll be referring to him as we go along. All right, order of business. Do any of the board members interested in changing any of the items? Order of business, okay, great, thank you. Special reports, I see we have our sheriff, Commander Manuel here, if you don't mind. CHP's also. Oh, great, thank you. Wonderful, thank you for coming. Please, Commander Manuel.
Good evening, Michael Manueli, Commander, Sheriff's North Station. I have for you an upside down report for September this year. Okay, the station had 1,682 calls for service. Last year we had 1,513. That's an increase of about 11%. From those calls for service, San Miguel counted about 190. Templeton 358 compared to last year, 340, a 5% increase. Breaking those calls for service down into specific areas, into reports, we're looking at the station 247, last year 229, a 8% increase. San Miguel counted for 33 reports. Looking at Templeton specifically, we had 52 reports. Last year, we had 71, a 27% drop in reports. Breaking the calls for service down into specific areas, assault and battery. We had 8 calls for service, generating 5 reports. We had a caller report her son was almost killed her. Then we had that subject was arrested. We had 1 sexual assault and 3 domestic violence related calls. Disturbance, there were 19 calls for service, generating 2 reports. 2 of those were domestic arguments. There were no burglaries, and there were 6 calls for service related to thefts, generating 3 reports. We had items stolen from an unlocked vehicle, we had a wallet stolen, and we had a scanner and master key set stolen from a vehicle. That could lead to future problems. Vandalism, 2 calls for service, both generated a report. We had a report was needed for insurance reporting reasons. The paint was scraped off the top of this person's hood. And then we had a victim report, a rock was thrown through the residence window. Trespassing, there were 4 calls for service. 1 report was generated. Caller reported that a neighbor broke into her mother's RV or mobile home and started yelling at the mother. That subject was arrested by deputies on serious charges. Scams, no reports. Suspicious circumstances, 14 calls for service, generating no reports. I did note that this call seemed fairly interesting. The caller reported that a subject was filming inside of their house. We located that subject. It turned out he was just on a walk and live streaming his walk. Must have been pretty interesting, but no crime was committed. I did bring, and I'll hand a few out for the board. I don't have many. This is important evacuation information. Again, you've heard me talk about this. Reporting, knowing your zone in case of an emergency. Now, this is large scale emergency, massive earthquake, massive fire, derailment, that type of thing. This is large scale. You need to know your zone as to where you are. And the public and any of us can go to readyslow.org, and it will tell you, you enter your address, and it will tell you what your location is. So I'll leave a few of these for the board as needed. And that is my report for this month.
Thank you, appreciate it. Any questions from the board? For the sheriff, any questions from the public? For the sheriff? Great, well, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now we have session, please, come on, thank you. Thank you, don't mind introducing yourself.
I'll shake your hand.
Good evening, Clint Rutter, Templeton CHP, I'm a sergeant out of that area office. So this evening, I'm going to discuss our third quarter stats, so July through September of 2024. And comparatively, Templeton area to just our jurisdiction in general, what we've been doing as far as enforcement. Total crashes investigated for the Templeton area were 51. For the jurisdiction which we cover was, for 2024 was 217. Last year, same time frame, Templeton area had 46. And last year we had a total of 228. So that was an increase of about 11%. Let's see, property damage only collisions. Templeton had, this area, Templeton had 32. Across the board for the jurisdiction, we had 141. Injury collisions, Templeton had 19. For the area, we had 72. DUI, so for the Templeton area, we had 5 DUI arrests. In total, we had 32. Fatals, we had 0 fatals for the Templeton area, but for our jurisdiction, we had 4. Total law enforcement contacts, 320 for this area. Out of our jurisdiction, we had 3,075. Total citations issued, 185. And then for the jurisdiction, 2,055. Max speed violations, that's 65, 55, 32 within this area. And then total, we had 1,245. 100-mile-an-hour violations, 1 for this area. In total, we had 26. And believe it or not, there are still seatbelt violations. So within the Templeton area, we had 7 seatbelt violations. And in total, we had 35. DUI arrests, 16 for this area, total 77. And total motor services for the jurisdiction, 572. Total. That's all that I have, unless you guys have any questions for me, please ask.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I have,
Sir,
out of curiosity, on Highway 46 going west, after you pass the traffic circle, there are all these paint blotches for miles and they're different colors.
Paint bombs?
What
So
happened?
that's an act of vandalism. I'm sure, and Willie may be aware of that. I'm sure he is. Yeah, I was just briefed on that today. As you guys can see, I didn't have it up. So I just came back today from shoulder surgery and that was on my desk. So more to follow. I can't provide you with any information other than the fact that I know it's an act of vandalism and they're referring to it as paint bombs. And yes, there's white, blue, red. Yeah, we noticed them. So that will be more to follow and I can brief you guys. Follow me.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you. So we have also badge pinning ceremony for a couple of our firefighters, fire engineer and firefighter. But so we have our chief Peterson. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, board, and good evening. We do have, and I have the honor and privilege tonight of introducing a couple of new, but guys that have been around a little bit. So if I can get Logan to come up here. Both Logans.
Me?
Yeah.
we're in trouble if you're the new fire.
So we have Logan Knuckles, the taller version, and Logan Hanley tonight. Logan Knuckles will be pinned tonight with his firefighter badge after completing his firefighter task book. And just last week, right? Yeah? Okay, good deal. I just want to make sure I wasn't wrong. Logan Knuckles grew up in Atascadero, where he graduated from Atascadero High School in 2020. And he was a 3-sport letterman. He participated in FFA, and after school, he continued to play basketball for Cuesta College, but you couldn't have told him. Transferring to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo in 2022, but not playing basketball, just going to school. Okay. He volunteers with the Alicia Ann Roosh Byrne Foundation, where we got that from. As a camp counselor, and summer camp for burn survivors. That's a great program. His dad, Steve Knuckles, been doing this for years. I've known Steve for 30 some, yeah. And, Steve's always been involved in that and he's passing that on to his son Logan, which is outstanding. Currently Logan is focused on building a solid foundation for his firefighter training and getting a lot of experience here with us at Templeton. Logan Hanley. Logan Hanley's been with us for a little while, maybe just 3 years, so. 3 years, maybe. Okay. Raised in Atascadero, we won't hold that against him. And where he played football and ran track. His interest, and I did not know this, but his interest in the fire service came from Jonathan Torres. And then, he, a former, firefighter with us. And then, some of the, Knuckles family apparently had some influence there. So that was news to me. He attended an EMT course at Cuesta College and then completed his Firefighter 1 Academy at TEEX, in, Texas, which it's a online program, and then they go there for a month to do intensive hands-on training. And then they come back and they have to do some wildland stuff here, but we get him their Firefighter 1 through that process. In his free time, he likes snowboarding, football games, barbecues, and slow pitch softball. I didn't know that either. Wow. So with those introductions, we're going to do an oath of office. And I'm gonna hand each one of these to you guys. Actually, you know what?
You can move into the right over so we can have everybody on the camera.
You guys come on over this way. Keep forgetting about that. Right there. Big deal. Okay. Right hands. And I state your name.
I, Logan Hanley,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm that I will support and defend
or affirm that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations. Okay, with that said, Logan Knuckles, do you have somebody you'd like to come up and,
Yeah.
get your badge on? And your mom's name?
Yeah.
There you go. Done this once or twice.
I have. Okay,
Question.
no pressure.
I jinxed you.
You did. Oh my god.
I did jinx you.
Okay, you did. Hang on.
There it goes. Good deal.
I'd like to thank you, everyone, for coming today, and I want to thank the CSD and the fire department for all the opportunities they've given me.
Thank you. A little more, Logan's got a little legacy to follow. His dad, Steve Knuckles, like I said, known him for a long time. Started at Tascadero, went to Morro Bay, wound up becoming the chief of Morro Bay, retired 3 years ago. And so Logan's now starting his endeavor into the fire service, so little family heritage there. Logan Hanley, you got somebody to pin your engineer's badge on, so just a little more information with that. We lost one of our fire engineers, full-time folks, to Monterey. And we did an in-house hiring, and Logan came out on top on that. And so he's gonna take on that engineer safer position, and he's our newest engineer. You got somebody?
Yeah, I do. You know, I had my mom pin my first one here, and it was a really cool experience. I think I'm gonna let my girlfriend do this one this time. There you go.
Top and paint. Oh, we almost had, oh my gosh. Like a pro.
I almost started. Okay.
You can leave it like that.
Not the first time I've been a part of the board. It's a fun experience. I've had a great time learning from every single captain, including Goldblum, who I know is not here with us right now. All the engineers, the firefighters, you know, I love my job every single day I come here, and it's a blessing to be able to work in a community that I've lived in for so long. So thank you, everyone, Knuckles family, mom, girlfriend, everyone. I appreciate all you guys. So.
Congratulations.
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 Congratulations. Welcome.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful.
You guys can stay.
We're gonna zoom.
Bill's sticking around.
We're starting next door.
Oh, is that,
Is that Goldblum up there?
yeah, okay. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Congrats. Okay, public comment. Members of public may address the board on any items of interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, but not on the agenda today. In compliance with the Brown Act, the board cannot discuss or act on items not on the agenda. Any of the public, do they have any comments at this time? Not related to our agenda? No, okay. Okay, next, the next item is the consent agenda. These are, there are 3 items are on our consent agenda, and these items are considered routine. The items are our minutes from September 3rd, 2024, the treasurer's report, which is for July 2024, and the budget amendment, fire engine repair in the amount of $12,000. Do any of the board members would like to pull any of the items to discuss?
No.
Any public would like to pull any of the items to discuss? Okay, if not, then I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that the board approve the consent agenda items A, the minutes of the September 3rd board meeting. Item B, the treasurer's report for the month of July 2024. And the budget amendment for the fire engine repair for fire engine 7195 in the amount of $12,000.
Great,
Second.
we have. Director Peterson seconds. Okay, roll call, please.
Directors Logan,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
English.
Aye.
Mortensen.
Aye.
And Fardonish.
Aye. Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. And next item is our business item. It's a board member vacancy, review of the interested persons that we have 6 interested parties that have applied for the vacant seat. And we have our general manager, Jeff Burrell, on Zoom, that's gonna explain the process on what we need to do.
Excuse me, good evening. Thank you very much. I'll be brief. As the board is well aware, you have 3 seats that would have been up for the election this November. However, during the nomination period that ran in late July and early August, only 2 Templeton residents submitted nominations for the board. Those are Naveed Fardonish and Deborah Logan. And because there were 3 or fewer, in this case 2, that had submitted nominations, there will not be an election in Templeton for the Templeton CSD Board of Directors, and the Board of Supervisors will appoint Deborah Logan and Naveed Fardonish in lieu of an election. The 3rd seat, there was not a 3rd person, and so the process is that the Board of Supervisors may appoint an interested party to the full 4-year term. And the county has, as they did in 2022, has asked for Templeton CSD to provide a recommendation. Because we knew this process was coming, once we didn't have at least three candidates for the board, we initiated some outreach to try to stir up some interest on the board, and sent out a press release, posted on our website, sent to our email addresses that we maintain, social media accounts, etc., and asked that any residents interested in serving submit a real brief application by I believe it was September 23rd, and attend tonight's meeting. As you know, in the board packet, there are applications from 6 different residents, and I believe at least some of them have attended or are in attendance, and they have been asked to attend and introduce themselves and ask any questions that they may have of you, and you're free to ask them questions, although they've not been asked to be prepared for any sort of formal interview or formal process. After you've met each of them, the board can deliberate on whether or not you're able to make a recommendation. The deadline to submit the recommendation to the county clerk's office is October 16th. So if you struggle to agree or have some more thought you want to put into this, you would be able to actually table this decision until your next meeting and still meet that deadline of submitting the recommendation. So you have a few options tonight. You do not have to come to a conclusion tonight, but the county absolutely expects Templeton CSD to generate a recommendation for their consideration. I can tell you that in years past, these items have gone before the Board of Supervisors on the consent agenda, and I would expect the same thing would occur on November 5th. If in fact we do submit a recommendation that it would be what would be considered on the consent agenda for the Board of Supervisors. I'm happy to attempt to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Questions for General Manager at this time?
I did. I would like to know whether or not the general manager met with any of the applicants, and or if there were any kind of opportunity for those members to get additional information about the activity of our board members, and if that took place during that process prior to this meeting.
General Manager, did you hear the question?
I did. Yeah, our press materials or press release encouraged candidates to contact me with any questions. I didn't hear from any of these candidates. there was one independently generated newspaper article, so I did talk to a reporter about that. I don't recall speaking to anybody who actually applied. And I'm not certain if any of these applicants have contacted any of the board members prior to tonight.
Thank you. All right, if there are no other questions, I guess we would like to hear from the candidates themselves. So I'm just gonna, in order that are listed, I'm gonna ask the candidates that are here to please stand up and introduce themselves, let us know any additional comments, and we can go from there. First is Richard Ash. Is Richard Ash here? Okay. Nicole Keel. Here. William Nowinski.
Yes.
Please, if you don't mind going to the podium, and if you have any additional comments.
No, I basically, put down, why I want to be on the board and, that I just, have time and, I'd like to contribute. One comment I do want to make this time, this is the third time I've applied.
Mhm.
And, I know, it looked like in July or, by August 9th, we had to actually, I don't know how the process would work, that you would actually be on the election ballot. And it would have been nice if the board, well, whoever, sends out the information about these things would have, put out some kind of notice. Because if I would have known that, I could actually, run for the position rather than just, go through this process, I would have done that, but I didn't find out until after the deadline of August 9th. So just one comment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for your consideration.
Actually, just 1 second, let me see, are there any questions from Mr. Nowinski?
So I'm curious if you have had any formal participation on municipal government in any level?
The only, well, I worked for the state of California, but that was as a employee. And also I've been on the board of directors of a number of homeowners associations in Orange County, and currently I'm the president of the New Hampshire Community Homeowners Association, so. That's my only formal.
Okay.
Do you have one question? So, one of the questions that I have for you is, I have kind of gone to TAG, I'm the liaison with TAG for the board, where I have kind of promoted, the open seats, and I've had individuals come back to me and say, do I have to follow the California Fair Political Practice Commission's requirements of financial disclosure? So as elected body or elected members serving on this board, because we do influence government policy, we're required to disclose financial interest. Because as a board member, if we have something that comes before the board that could be a conflict of interest, that needs to be made known. So do you have any objections to completing the Form 700 financial interest?
No
Okay.
problem at all.
So I do have another question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. No, go
I
ahead.
have a list. So the other, it's unfortunate that you weren't able to, or knew the timeline, because with this being an elected position, my personal preference is that we go through an election as opposed to the board making the appointment or making a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, because it gives the community an opportunity to hear from the candidates and for the community to make that decision. Have you, it's apparent that our general manager has indicated that none of the candidates have reached out to the general manager for questions. Have you reached out to any board member with questions about the role?
I believe the first time I applied, I believe I talked to you over at the Historical Society.
Yes,
Yeah, so that was about a year, I don't know, 2 years.
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, so and we discussed it quite
Yeah.
extensively, so, yeah, I did find out about it. And I I look every month on the agenda to see if there's anything of particular interest to me, so. I know, I try and keep up on what's going on, so.
The other thing I want to make sure with all candidates is the understanding that this is a 4-year commitment. So, you know, this is not something where it's once a year, it is a 4-year commitment. So it's important that people understand that what you're signing up for is a 4-year commitment.
And it's every other week, correct?
Well, there's other committees. So the board itself meets twice a month. But there's also, we each serve on at least 2 committees.
Oh,
So there's other committee meetings that we are required to participate in.
okay, wonderful.
And there could be more meetings, but we're limited in terms of, you know, our compensation too. So that's to be understood. So the demand may be greater than what the compensation is. So,
Well, I think I said in my application that, you know, my youngest child, currently went off to school, so we're empty nesters for the first time in 33 years. So I have, quite a bit of time off, but.
okay. The other is that,
Be happy.
so do you know any board members or have you, know any current employees at the TSD? Or have you, are you appointed with any prior board members?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. And I think that's all I have right now.
Thank you, and I also wish that we went through a process where we had an opportunity to submit nominations and have a vote and had a process.
Yeah.
This is not the way we want it to go. And we need to figure out how to do that in the future. We have tried. I'm surprised we didn't have other people notified. Given this circumstance where we're really just choosing 4 people, there's not much other than what you put on paper about the district. Of the one thing that you would bring up that is the most significant challenging issue with the district, what issue would be preeminent in your consideration now?
Well, one of the issues I believe is the utilities issue, you know, with the water, you know, or lack thereof in the area. And, yeah, that's my biggest concern is, you know, to make sure we have, you know, enough water for all of our residents and for, you know, we don't overexpand the, you know, that we can't supply, you know, run into, you know, restrictions.
Thank you.
And I just want one other comment, because I know that some people have an understanding or believe that the district is responsible for planning and what the community looks like. And I just want to make sure that everyone is clear that that's not our role here. That is the county that approved all development. So if you're applying because you want to somehow or another influence the development that occurs here in Templeton, this isn't the role as well. And I'm not trying to discourage you. I want to be kind of honest with all of you in terms of expectations.
Yeah, I realized that from attending the TAG board meetings that, you know, we've got a little say in it, so.
Yeah, okay.
I just have a couple of questions. You did mention that this is your 3rd time
Yes.
filling that, and I remember clearly, I remember that last time you were not here, and you said that you follow the agenda, and if there's an item of interest, you know, you just, you know, you evaluate to see what's the item of interest. I'm just wondering, this whole time, I have not seen you at the meetings. So do you not find the items interesting, or what's the reason have not attended?
I just didn't think I could, you know, I saw some items that, you know, were interesting, but I didn't think that there was anything that I could really contribute to, you know, like when you were doing, you know, there was a discussion once about the cell phone,
on top of the tower.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, I look at these things, but, there was nothing really I could contribute or subtract from that, so I just, I just pay attention to that, but that was, it didn't come to the meetings.
yeah, okay. My other question was, as Director English asked, he asked about items that interest you or you think are significant for Templeton TSD. You mentioned water, and what other issues do you think are of a concern to TCSD?
Well, to maintain, our fire department, because I think it's a great thing that we have, actually have a fire department here, for the community. And, as far, with the water issue, it's like, can we drill more wells, or, what can we do to, kind of make sure that, our water is, we continue to receive enough water for our community.
Okay. Well, thank you. I don't have any other questions. Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Next person is Keith Russell. Thank you for coming, Mr. Russell. If you just want to make some comments.
Good evening, thanks, everybody. I think on my application, I briefly mentioned at the end, I had intended to do this in July. So I apologize that you're sort of in this dilemma. I was at the very end of seeking some medical assistance and meeting doctors to come to the same conclusion and getting some minor surgery out of the way, which thankfully was done weeks ago. So I find you guys now have some awesome candidates to deal with. I'm coming up on 5 years moving here to Templeton. I'm a lifetime Californian. One of my concerns growing up in Southern California was we were getting our water from the Colorado River that is now shrinking. So much like Mr. Ash, my concerns are also water. We also live in a community with a lot of agricultural, a lot of horse farming going on. So there's some concerns long-term, not only water, but I ended up having friends who works for PG&E. So I talk about water, he talks about power companies. So those are kind of some of my concerns. I've been stuck in the house for the last year or so, just dealing with some medical issues that, God, thank God, are going behind me now. And trying to come out, realize that I need to get off the national political scene and get more comfortable with what's going on in my actual community. And I do agree an election would have been the awesome way to go. I could not make that commitment either in July to do that as well. And so I was kind of surprised to see that you still had openings, and so I went ahead and reapplied. My background has been primarily in automotive, but in automotive world and the product support quality assurance world is also a liability world. So everything in that world, anything you do is liability related. So anything in our world today is also liability related. So I see a lot of that going on in our politics. I see a lot of that going on in our community. So just being more aware of what's going on. It was here when we saw the fire department become 24/7 after we moved in. We arrived, unfortunately, just before the pandemic. We were here for about 4 months when everything collapsed and shut down. So losing 2 years of that and then a couple of years going by, it seems like an overnight sensation that 5 years has now passed for myself. But I'm fully committed for 4 years. I have no intention of leaving this area. This was our vacation spot for many years along the west coast and along 101, Morro Bay, San Luis Obispo. We didn't know about Atascadero. We did discover that that was being hidden down here. So, any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
You want me to go first? So I'll ask the same question. Do you currently know any current board members or prior board members, employees of the TCSD? Okay, so no relationships there. And you mentioned that you're willing to serve for the 4-year commitment. Board members. Oh, Form 700, as I previously mentioned, and the statement of economic interest. Yeah, so that is something that needs to be filed. So you have no objections to that. Okay, and let's see. And okay, you explained why not applying through for the nomination period. And
I had it filled out. It was ready to go.
and I'll go back also, I think, Director English, asked this also, is, you know, we act as a collective body. We make decisions that sometimes we don't all agree on, but it's a majority rule. And when those decisions are made, it is, you're buying into it, whether or not you voted for it or not. And have you served in a role, where you have, and you mentioned this, municipal government, but have you served in a role where it is a majority rule? And when that decision is made, it is bought into and everyone supports that?
Pretty much my whole career.
Okay, and can you describe the challenges with that?
With the challenges with that, actually, most of my career, I was very lucky to find myself working in team environments at a very early age. And was able to use that to my advantage of growing, becoming supervisors, becoming managers, using teamwork, you know, to build some consensus, but not everyone's going to be on that same page. So you do have to build a consensus. You also may have to explain to certain individuals why maybe their point isn't going to come across and cover what they feel is the need for that position. I was in multiple positions where I was always asked, why do I favor one individual over another individual? And it really came down to is, what was the ability of that person versus what your abilities are? And so you learn that there's give and take in decision making, and a consensus decision is what you will have to deal with in a lot of this situations. I had cost cutting to deal with. I had all kinds of issues I had to deal with in the automotive world, and they were quite challenging some days.
Thank you.
Yeah, you already mentioned, my question was, and thank you for being here, was that water was one of your interests. And so thank you for that. Tell me a little bit more about the circumstances of Templeton Water. What do you know about it? I mean, there's quite a bit involved with just water.
Right. No, I'm aware that we're using a pipeline coming out of Nacimiento. And I've been watching all the other reservoirs, again, living off of the Southern California area with the Colorado. It's just an area that been interested in. I couldn't tell you how long. I don't know if you're familiar with the book Cadillac Desert. I read that book probably 35 years ago. And then somebody recently gave me a newer book to tell me how bad things really are. And I'm like, I don't even want to read that book because, you know, I follow what's going on with Oroville all the way through. And I guess it's being Californian, spent most of my vacation either out here on the coast between south of, or north of Santa Barbara up here to San Simeon, or in the Sierras. And if anybody wants to challenge me on climate control or climate change, you just need to go to the Sierras and see what's happened in the Central Sierras. I grew up in the Southern California. We never went those. Those were just barren, but this is now what ours are looking like. So there is a radical change in our environment. I've already seen it here in 5 years of living in Templeton, that the heat is coming on a little stronger and a little longer already. Because we live right over here off of Vineyard, so we get this weird split where we watch the weather go in different directions. But I've also been very thankful for some of the rainfall that we've seen here since we moved into this area. So it was one of my major considerations as to where I was relocating to up here in the West Coast. And this particular area gets a nice, strong, dependable rain source, although most of it's north of us. So that's kind of one of my areas, but I've also realized power, although we don't have any control over that here too, that's another consideration. I'm also concerned about water wasting. I now live in a park that I believe is wasting a lot of water. And unfortunately, the Templeton CSD people drive by this place every day. The lawns have become extremely lush. We have water running down in the streets, we have mud flows coming out, and yet we have a management that Meadowbrook that could care less when we bring them issues, so. I see things like that and I kind of concerned, we now have 130 hotel coming in Cambria. With a pool, undoubtedly, Mr. Winters was just denied in Cambria, his so-called hotel that was gonna use less water than a restaurant did. So, you know, just kind of watching what's going on in the community, becoming more aware. I'm fortunately wasting too much time on the national politics scenes, and I really want to get the local. I've been on your email list from TAG, and unfortunately I cannot make that. Because I'm very concerned about what's gonna happen up here. That's a joke right now. The county did a disservice to the city when they allowed Trader Joe's to go in like they did without any signal over there, so I will be attending TAG meetings as well.
Well, I don't run TAG.
I know, but I know, I've seen your name on the emails and I've been trying to get to those meetings and, yeah, thankfully now I'm getting in a much better shape to go out and get to the real world. Thank you.
And then, so as far as attending meetings and coming to our meetings here, what has been the reasons that you have not attended meetings here?
Poor health. It ended up being a very bad year for me. Luckily, I just joined Medicare last January. So I put Medicare to the test this year, and from what I can tell now, everything should be green for the next few years. I've had every test that they can imagine. I basically needed hernia surgery. And the doctors kept looking for something worse, and it's like I had to drag them back to a simple procedure.
Okay, and then you mentioned as far as importance or issues that long-term or we're facing challenges at TCSD, you mentioned water.
Water.
And anything else?
Well, the continued growth of your fire department.
Okay.
Even one of the reasons I left the location I did is I lived between two hospitals and we had 24/7 sirens. So it was quite bizarre to live here for a year or so and not really hear that, but now it's more of a thankful relief that that is actually happening in the community. There's just a lot of things I still need to become aware of, you know, as a new resident in the area.
Yeah, and you mentioned continued growth of fire department. How do you think we could go about doing that?
Well, right now, seeing them all together, that's pretty impressive. And I think we just got a new fire truck coming.
It will be, we got a grant, yeah, it'll be here in a couple of years.
Those guys are fun to travel with on when they go to get the truck. I've flown across country with them. It's either in Wisconsin or Florida is where they go for them, and yeah, they're just not, they're all custom built. It's incredible.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. And good luck.
Next person is Emmanuel Solero. Please come on up. Thank you for coming. Emmanuel, nice to meet you. If you would like to make any comments before we ask questions.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. Want me to introduce myself a little more?
Yes, please, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm originally from the Bay Area. I came here to go to Cal Poly, and I realized this is a really beautiful place. I've been struggling or making the effort to stay in the area. I moved to Templeton here about 2018. And I kind of want to stay. I have to say it's definitely, there is no traffic. There is no, I mean, compared to the Bay Area, this is great. So I saw you guys' flyer and I decided, why not? If I want to stay here, my wife wants to grow our family here. So figured this might be interesting. So my background, I'm an engineer. I graduated from Cal Poly as an electrical engineer. I went back to get a master's in data analytics, the business aspect of it. And then I've been working also in electronics and, electrical work and construction. COVID kind of gave a little twist on my life. I realized that, being on the desk as an engineer was really stressful. And I enjoyed some of the outdoor work, and I got to do some of the programs in construction from, Cuesta. The more I'm out, the more I'm driving out for work for a couple different contractors, the more I'm loving the, what do you call it, the whole like small country feel. And so I know this place is gonna grow. I like the country feel, but I'd like to I just realized what you said was that, there is limited input or limited influence maybe that this group can do. But I'd like to be a little bit more aware of what's going on. I'm also interested with water. I've been looking at, my water bill. I've seen some of the pipe work that they've done. I'm just interested. I mean, I wanna live here. And my interest is to be involved where I live. So.
Great, thank you. You mentioned your water bill. Can you be a little more specific about that? Because I was reading this, it says that you have looked at your water and sewage and it's gone up significantly. So can you explain to me what is significantly, and when was the last time your water bill went up?
So last time, it depends on what's going on. So whether I'm watering or not, I'm growing a little garden. So I started seeing the little hikes whether it was for the plumbing. So I've seen like the sewage is quite more than the water. That's a major part of my bill. I've been tracking it since 2018. I see it go up and down. But I was interested in I would say intrigued on how there's been little hikes. I understand there's inflation going on, but my water bill is roughly 110. And then when I talk to other people from other little towns around here, not all their water bills are quite that high.
Are you talking about water and sewage or?
Water and sewage, yeah, it comes as one bill.
Yes.
So I'd like to dive a little more and learn a little more about it. I hadn't put that much interest into in the past, but my wife says this is the place we want to grow old in. So I think it's time to look at it a little more. And I can answer some of your other questions if you want. Why haven't I been to some of these meetings? Well, I hadn't paid that much attention to it. I just looked at the bulletin and said, oh, that's what's going on. I didn't realize that this was something that you could apply to for a job, or not a job. I mean, it's more of people interested in their community. So now that I'm looking at it, I'm being more interested in a place that I want to live in. I don't know if you want to ask the other questions that
Yeah.
up ahead.
Well, yeah, so, I don't know if there's more questions that you wanted to.
Yes,
ask.
yes, and what are the significant challenges that TCSD is going to face over the next 2 or 3 years?
I think there's gonna be some growth. I'm looking at the growth that's going on over by Napomo. I'm looking at there's growth over at Paso. I've been tracking the stuff that's been going on since the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, prices of real estate were a lot cheaper. I don't think I could buy the same house today. I've also noticed that there's a big influx of people coming from, I like to go, what do you call it? One of my hobbies is to go and look at open houses and talk to the real estate agents. And I've noticed there's a lot of big influx of people from either the Bay Area or LA area coming here. I mean, they'll sell the houses over there, or they'll have their higher paying salaries and just move here and be able to afford a house. It's kind of driving some of the prices up. I continue to see some of those interests, and some of those people moving into the area. I get as doing some of the construction work, I get to see talk to some of the people that are moving in. They're loving the area. It's cheap compared to where they live. There's no traffic, and they can telecommute. So I kind of see that also experiencing the microclimates, driving around the different little towns, areas. What is there not to love about this area? Less population, the middle of, almost right between LA and San Francisco. This as the word gets out, this is gonna be a more desirable place to live.
What do you think of our parks?
Parks?
Yes.
In what sense?
Just their usage conditions, are there enough parks?
So that's a hard question for me to answer. I didn't study much about, development. But I mean, I like this park here. I can hear the events that go on. Going to San Luis, there's some of the parks that at night I probably wouldn't go to. I can see some of the, especially some of the area beneath the highway over here between 101 and 46. I can see there's an increase of other people moving in, living out under the bridges. So I kind of see that as also coming eventually in the future, becoming, how would I call it, spreading. I'm glad that that doesn't exactly happen here just yet, but I don't know how that's gonna get resolved or addressed in the future. And I think that might be an issue in the future. Along with some of the other issues that come along with that. So I think parks are important. I love that there's a green area. This is one of the best parks I've been in. I mean, it's got a really nice gazebo. You guys light it up at night. There's events. A lot of people come here. I like to walk my dog here. It's right in front of the fire department. So it's a very nice, and oh, by the way, and the grass is very well kept. I like that. Not all parks have that. So in terms of parks, I think they're important. It's a place for people to relax and escape to. And I mean, on hot days, I'm walking down here under the cool shade of the trees.
All right, thank you.
Those are my questions.
So I'll ask the question that I've asked the previous candidates. Do you know any current board members that are serving in here? Do you know any prior board members?
No.
Any TCSD current or former employees? Okay. Are you able to commit to the 4 years that this position requires?
I think so.
Okay, and it's not just the twice a month board meetings, but also for committee meetings as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Form 700, which is the State of California Political Practice, Fair Political Practice Commission, Statement of Financial Interest, Form 700. Are you willing to complete that?
Yeah, I'm
And
willing to
disclose your
complete that.
financial interests?
Yeah. Can I add something to that?
Sure.
I wasn't aware that I could just come up and talk and maybe talk to you guys to see a little more what's the position of like. I kind of would like to do that. And I know you guys, the person, what do you call it? The county wants you to make a decision. I would like to know more about the position before I proceed with my application, just because I'd like to know a little more what I'm getting into. I know you guys talked about it, read the paper, but I got the feeling just from what you guys were talking about, there's a little bit more involved than what is on that paper.
Yeah. Have you not made you obviously did not make an attempt to contact the general manager? To ask
No,
questions?
I didn't know that was something I submitted my application, was it the 23rd or 20 something? I didn't realize.
Of September?
Yes,
Okay.
it's pretty recent that I made the decision,
Okay.
so I hadn't thought about it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's important that people understand what the role is, and how we function, and there are certain rules, laws that we have to follow, as board members. It's not like volunteering for, PTA. We do have to follow, laws that say how we meet, when we can meet, when it becomes an official meeting. If there's 3 or more of us in the same room, we can't do that. We can't talk to each other about anything on the agenda or any business of the district outside of this meeting. So there are a number of rules that we have to follow. And over on that wall, I'll point out to all candidates are our norms. And this is really kind of saying how we as board members are expected to behave towards one another. And it's important that we abide by that. Otherwise, we're not effective as a board, and we can also affect what the district accomplishes or doesn't accomplish in terms of strategic initiatives if we're not functioning properly as well. So it's important that people understand what you are signing up for. So I appreciate that comment. And I think the other question that I have for you is related to any kind of municipal government role. Have you served in that capacity or role where it is a majority vote, that then is supported by all individuals, regardless of how you voted?
So I've never served on a government committee of any type. I do serve on my church's financial committee. And and I'm also, what do you call it? I have some input into I can do comments on the church board, board meetings. So I do understand the part where you come up with what do you call it? You give the facts. It kind of goes with my engineering side where you give the facts and you present it in a way that's as much unbiased as possible. And the people who have this, what do you call the power to make decisions, they're the ones that make the decision and you all buy in. So I am very familiar with that process.
And it's important also that people understand too, is our role is to approve policy, not to direct or I shouldn't say, not to interfere with the day-to-day operations, because that is the role of the general manager. Just to level set the expectation there. So, I don't have any more questions.
Sure, yeah, actually, she answered all the questions. She asked all the questions.
Oh.
Okay. Didn't. No, one, thank you. I appreciate you being here. I'm sorry that there's not more information available for you. We were not trying to chastise you because we haven't been to board meetings in the past. We're just trying to get information about you, what you know, who, and how do we make a decision here. So no negative intentions there.
Oh, not negative.
But I do want to tell you that I will disagree with you about traffic in Templeton. Have you not been by the Templeton School vineyard? There's a lot of traffic.
Okay.
I avoid it. So just clarify.
Doesn't have kids yet.
Yeah.
You do not need to have
Well, or
kids.
live nearby and have to get on Vineyard.
Yeah.
But asked earlier about your interest in this, what do you think is the most significant issues in the services district? The area that we have control over, and you mentioned water. Can you give me another example of a challenge that our district is having in the future regarding the services district?
Services and utilities or as in other services?
Yeah, we have our services district, Templeton Community Services District, has the authority of water, sewer, parks, some of fire, some
Drainage,
there's
streetlights.
some other matters. Tell me the matters that are most significant to you.
To me, so first of all, I probably should talk to some of you guys just to get more interest, because this is kind of new to me. In terms of interest, so one of the things that I don't know how much sway you guys might have, but as I see all these developments popping up, looking at the new area, the Raggedy Ranch area over San Luis Obispo. One of my concerns when I drove over there and started looking at it, I'm like, if there was a fire, you got a two-lane road coming out and you got how many houses? So if there's some issue on that hill, that's gonna be an issue trying to get out of there. I know they're pushing for, what do you call it? People to use bicycles and use, other means of transportation, but I think the people that are typically moving into those areas don't use those means just because they tend to have a little bit more money. I kind of see that as a popping up issue around the county. I don't know about that being quite the issue here because the population in Templeton is a lot smaller. But that would be a concern that I can see happening, especially when now, like, so this week alone, I was surprised to see how many burnt spots there were up the grade, down Highway 1, up in Paso area, just because I get to drive a little bit more. And that is a concern to me. And as I see oaks that are starting to dry up a little more, I have a couple of those Paso the robles of oaks dropping limbs, and I don't know what other, I've heard that there's some beetle going around. I can see, I mean, there's a field in front of my house, so it is a concern for me that fire in the near future could be an issue, especially as populations grow. I don't know how much sway the committee might have to push something. But I don't know if I'm getting toward your question is, fire is becoming more of an interesting place where the home insurance is skyrocketed because fire is a concern. I got friends in Placer County, but now their home insurance is $6,000 a year. So if something were to happen here, like a fire, I don't see how that wouldn't happen here in terms of home insurance. That's a concern to me, having fires. So,
Thank you very much.
okay.
Any other questions, Dr. Mortensen? No. Okay, well, thank you very much, appreciate it. I noticed we have someone on Zoom, do they have any questions? Matthew? All right. And Chelsea Tyrone, please come on up, thank you, to the podium. Yeah. Welcome.
Hi, good to see the board again. I was here previously when there was another seat that was vacant and needed an appointment. I was surprised actually that no one formally went through the election process, especially given you know, the board's emphasis on contacts with the board. So I would have thought that you all would have been able to rustle up someone from your network to have gone through the election process. But I was pleased to see that there was still an opportunity, and so I reapplied tonight. Just to reiterate my experience, I grew up here in SLO County, moved away for college. I have 3 degrees, 2 bachelor's, 1 in political science, 1 in US history, and my master's. I moved back to the area 2 years ago, just in time to have my first child. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter and a 10-month-old boy. And so I'm in a unique position in my career right now where I am staying home with those 2 little angels, demons, depending upon the day. And so because I am not working full time, I have an availability now that I don't normally have. As I mentioned in my application, I've spent my entire career working, nearly a decade, working for 3 different mayors in San Francisco. And so I'm gonna do my best to address all of the questions, so we don't have to like repeat them again. I have no issue following filling out the Form 700, something I've had to do as when I worked in San Francisco for the mayor's office. You have to disclose any potential conflicts that you may have, so no issue there. I have not attended any of the meetings for this board, one, because I've been a little busy rearing children, but also I think that these meetings, until the first appointment opportunity was brought to my attention, and I think this also speaks to one of the challenges facing the district, is I don't think that this district board, this body, is well known throughout residents in the community. I think that if we could do a better job of not only advertising the importance of the body and what the function is, but also soliciting input from community members. I think we've heard it multiple times here tonight from folks who didn't know about the value, or that their input just in attendance would be welcomed. So I think that's something that we could think about moving forward as a area for opportunity. I have obviously worked in many instances where I was asked to uphold a decision that I may not have personally agreed with, working for 3 mayors. In one of my positions, I was the Deputy Director of Community Services and Neighborhood Services, and I staffed Mayor Edward Lee very frequently, and we did not always agree on things. Also, in my most previous position, I sat very frequently on panels where we were awarding funds through a procurement process to nonprofits. Those are a scoring process. Oftentimes, you may end up awarding an organization and then having to manage a contract with an organization that you yourself did not have a lot of faith in, or was not your first choice, and yet, you know, the panel decided to go one way, and so then not only are you, was I asked to work with them, but then that organization, that contract itself. So even though, maybe it wouldn't have been my first choice, I have a lot of experience putting aside my own personal beliefs, for the betterment of, the work. In terms of challenges facing, the district, I think we've talked a lot about water. One of the things, following the conversation that we had, during the summer when there was an appointment. I have not reached out to any of the board members. I do not know any of the board members, past, previous, or employees, which again, I think speaks to the fact that like the network, maybe not as broad as we would hope it to be in terms of how many residents and the diversity of residents that are connected to this board. But because the board had expressed a really a concern over the learning curve about joining this board, I have familiarized myself. I've read the last 3 fiscal funding reports as well as the district's most recent strategic plan. So I think that I have a good grasp of the function of the board as well as some of the challenges facing the board. One of the things that popped out in the strategic plan that I thought was interesting, and in the funding, the most recent funding report, is that the sale of the hospital to Adventist Health has resulted in a $50,000 anticipated deficit in terms of property taxes, because it will be a nonprofit, and so they will be tax exempt. So I think that's an interesting, something that I did not consider, even though I live right next to that hospital, an implication. And so I think that's an interesting challenge. I also noted that the Parks and Rec Department, typically there's a budget gap, but it's been recently folded in. As the mother to 2 small children, I really, really value the park. I also have a dog, so I love the dog parks. But I do think that they are slightly under-programmed year-round in terms of not only potentially garnering more participation from the public, but I also think that that is a great avenue to, again, introduce the board to the rest of the community. I know that there's this summer concert series, but I think that that's something that we could think about expanding upon, especially harnessing the energy of some youth and volunteers. I've seen it be successful in the Bay Area and San Francisco, and I think it's something that would be an interesting project for this board to consider as well. Trying to think if there are any other questions that I forgot to address.
Committed for 4 years?
Yes, yeah. My littlest one is 10 months old, and we might be having one more, so I'm committed. My plan is to stay home with them until they're ready for school.
Thank you. Any question? I think you touched upon everything.
You touched on them all. You got them down.
Yeah.
I have a question. So obviously, you were aware of this board, and at the last time that you were here, we encouraged participation in the committee, so, you know, we could get to know, you know, the candidates or people, but you chose not to engage in the committees or attend any other meetings. So is that just because you are busy with raising children?
I would say that I was also a little bit discouraged from the meeting, and the impression that I got from the board after that meeting, the overemphasis on the learning curve. And I know that Templeton's a very small community, and I got the impression that the board had a tight-knit relationship with one another, board members, that there really wasn't a lot of opportunity or space for new members or new voices, to be quite frank. That's also why I did not join the official election process, as I just assumed that given that board members have been on the board for several years and that the past members are still involved or in other advisory groups, I just assumed that there would not be space.
So what has changed?
a very loving push from my husband to say, that's not a good reason for you not to join.
Alright.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Alright, well, thank you, appreciate it. Any other comments, questions before it comes back to the board for discussion?
I have a question. Both these gentlemen said something about running for election. What is that? What are they talking about?
Well, we had an election, we could have an election, and actually, we, Director Logan and I, we were supposed to be on the ballot. But there would needed to be one more person to run because there was 3 seats open, so if there was actually 4 persons, then there would be an election, you actually be on the ballot, and you have to go out there and campaign, and it's, you know, that's why we're asking these questions, because when you're campaigning, you're actually knocking on the doors, discussing different topics with residents, so you have to be aware. And like when the first time we did it, we had to meet the candidates night, and we were asking for us to ask questions, and we had to write. So I mean, this is, so it is, you know, it's a big position, and you know, you're actually sitting, you know, with us as
Well,
the
it forces
presidential
you,
election.
it forces you to kind of have to understand, because when I first came onto the board, I attended a
was how
few
long ago?
meetings. 2016 is when I started. And I attended a couple of meetings, and to learn about more what the district does. You know, because I think to your point, not everyone knows. And it's really because everything, our general manager and to the staff here, they do a phenomenal job of keeping things going. And it's kind of like, the only time people come if there's a problem. And so, but it forced us, because there were reporters that would reach out to us and say, tell me your position on this, that, and the other. Well, you'd have to think about it or do a little bit of research and to be able to answer those questions. But we met down at the school and had a panel and an audience, and it was the Women's League of Voters. And they had questions that all the candidates had to answer. And when you have an election, it forces you to, know what the issues are facing, to do a little homework. And then you're put on the ballot, and those ballots allow you to, 200 words, you know, what's your statement? And it's up to the voters, it's up to the community to make the decision on who's gonna serve on this board.
That's your preference.
That's the preference, because that is really, our role is to serve the community. And that's who we're serving, is the community. We're the voice of the community serving on this board. So it should be the community that is appointing us or making that decision on who serves on this board based upon the individual's knowledge of what the issues are. And the benefit of that is it's the voters that make that determination. And I think, as President Ferdanish mentioned, is that because there were, 3 seats open, we needed 4 people. And he and I both applied for reelection, but we needed 4 seats, 4 people. And you look at, a town of 8,000 plus people, you could get 4 people. And I know the general manager puts out a publication to kind of say, hey, we've got an election coming up. We had 2 board seats that became vacant midterm. And so that was the first time that came around, and I know you applied then. And so now it's coming up to where one of the 3 seats, Director English holds, and he's decided not to run again. So that seat and Ferdanish and myself.
Obviously, we didn't do a wonderful job at getting folks out to run for a position. But in our defense, I would like the general manager to tell us, given this has been brought up, what steps were taken in efforts to let the folks know. I heard about it, I knew about it, but I'm a little more connected, obviously. So I'd like to hear what steps were taken by the board and or the general manager to Get out to vote,
Communicate.
to communicate folks to run for the board.
Just so that you know, I am not trying to
No.
start a debate or, you know.
I know,
No, no, no.
I would
I
just
was
like,
just curious.
I think it's important that people understand.
I was
I have
just.
kind
it's
of-
been brought up several times.
Yeah.
None of this has been, you guys are a mystery, put it to you guys that way.
Well,
And maybe the national politics level has created a thing where people, I mean, I hesitated to wanna come forward. But I kind of just pushed myself at some point. It's like, you know, there's things that need to be done in the community and I'm sitting at home. I gotta get out and do it. you
Well,
know?
that's the reason why I asked about the Form 700, because there were a couple people who
That
came to me
didn't-
and said, I know somebody who's interested, but they wanna know if they have to complete the Form 700, because that's a barrier. So that's why I asked all of you.
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Dad, cause most people may not realize it.
Yeah. But I think Director English, that's a good, I think the general manager should provide an explanation.
Okay,
An
all right,
opportunity.
general manager?
Yeah, excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, one of the reasons why it's a slightly more complicated than it might appear on the surface is, as a special district, we don't run our own elections. The county clerk's office does, and so interested parties need to work with the county clerk's office to actually file to run for the Templeton CSD Board of Directors, just like they would for any other special district seat. So that's one of the differences between serving on, say, a city council, where you're more involved in that process, city would be, than the county clerk. In our case, this summer, when we had the vacancies occur in the summertime, we did indicate in the press materials that there was both an opportunity to apply for the appointed, the remainder of the two terms. There were two seats, one that was just over 2 years and one that was several months, as well as the information about running for the November election. Excuse me. However, we wouldn't have known until the nomination period had closed that there were insufficient number of applicants. I think in the bigger picture here, though, is what the observation is there isn't a lot of local press, and that's absolutely the case. And over the last half decade or decade, local press is really in a state of decline, and not just in Templeton, but in a lot of places. And so there's just not a lot of information that is coming from an truly independent source about these sorts of things. You don't have neutral parties, or if you want to call press neutral, but the press covering local elections, and that was never the case in communities in the past. You know, Templeton did have a small but regular news online newspaper that would cover these issues up until 2020. And I think that's probably been the biggest reason why people are not really in the know, or less in the know than they were in prior cycles.
I think, my personal opinion, you know, I came 2 weeks ago to the meeting and I'm like, where is everybody? And it was canceled. I had no idea, and I'm on a committee here. I had no idea. Just throwing it out there, maybe putting it on social media when our meetings are and that they're open to the public.
So Jeff, can you speak to, because when there's a cancellation, I get an email because I'm hooked into the internet, the,
Notify me feature.
yes.
Yes. So yeah, we would encourage, of course, anybody who's interested to sign up under our website through a little system called Notify Me, and you could select whatever whatever gets posted to the website gets pushed to your email box. So if it's about agendas or notices of cancellation or whatever job postings, you can pick and choose what you'd like to get notified on, and then you'll receive all that information the moment it's posted.
Because then you'll receive an email notice.
I
rather
figured
than
being
having
on
to
a
go and
committee,
look.
I would have gotten something, but
Yeah. Well, this way, I think the feature he's describing, the Notify Me, will allow you to get those notifications.
that's good.
Yeah, and obviously, if you go to the website, we have the little spot, that one of the tabs where it has all the meetings, all the minutes, and You know, it will tell you if the meeting has been canceled or what the agenda
I
is.
never
So
do
you can
that.
take.
It's just on my calendar.
Even with the schedule.
I don't ever.
But that does also place the responsibility on the resident to then seek out the website for that information. And so we're kind of circling the same issue where if there can be some more proactive communication, I think, too, so that folks would know about the website, would know to sign up for that email blast.
Well, with your utility bill, you get the notification of when the next meetings are.
Right.
But I don't think it's covering everything that they just talked about.
Well, not
News to me
sign
as
up.
well, I mean.
But, you know, all you could, yeah, all you gotta do is just Google TCSD and it tells you, you know, when the next meeting is.
But you have to know what.
I
And
think
it
there's always
depends.
improvements that can be made in communication, and I know this is something that's been near and dear to Director English's heart in the past in terms of getting community engagement. And it's difficult. I think people are busy, you know, like you, raising families. I raised my son. I was involved in school activities, sports activities. It's hard to get people's attentions. You know, and especially after working all day, to come to one of our meetings. They're not the most stimulating. But you know, there's always opportunities that we can improve. So I would agree with that.
Thank you, Dr. Logan. So that's one of our things. We gotta be careful with we discuss the items that are on the agenda and that, we don't wanna go too far away from that. So I just wanna bring it back to the board to discuss this matter in terms of making a recommendation to the county supervisors of San Luis Obispo regarding a candidate. So wanna open up a dialogue, see what your thoughts are. And where we wanna head. So as general manager mentioned, we don't have to make that decision tonight. If we like, we could, we could create an ad hoc committee to have two of us on there to discuss it a little bit further and then come back and at the next meeting, make a recommendation to the board. That way, if we have any further questions, we could discuss it with the general manager or the candidates. That would be one option. Another option would be if we are comfortable making a choice tonight, then we could do that. Obviously, I'm not comfortable making a choice tonight. I mean, these are wonderful candidates, but really I haven't, I did like the previous times when, this happened, where the candidate, we had communicated with them, they came, we all knew her in terms of she came to us, I requested meetings, we had individually meetings with them. They spoke with the general manager, so there was a little bit of comfort level there. Here, I'm just not comfortable. This is a big, important decision. This is for a 4-year term. So at least for me, I'm not ready to make that decision, but I like to hear everyone else say their thoughts.
Well, I'd also like to ask the candidates if any of the candidates are interested in wanting to meet offline to get more information. Because I think it would probably be beneficial, because I think it's important that you understand what are you signing up for? So that you can say with certainty, yes, I'm committed for the next 4 years.
I'll be more than happy to meet with anyone that'd like to go over, what we cover, issues, concerns. That would be wonderful. At least, so that way everyone is aware of, like, there were some issues, talks of development and things like that, but like, we don't have jurisdiction over development, so we can't, so like, I have concerns with some things going on, but even being on this board, we can't do anything, it's the county that we have to go to. And other issues like with water, yes, we get, like, there's some Nacimiento water, but that's not our main water source there. There are a whole bunch of other things that go into effect. And mentioned, okay, fire department, we want to improve fire department. Well, if you do, it could be at a cost to another department. So these are some tough decisions that every day we have to make. Every time we come here, it's like, yes, I would love to give fire department whatever they want, but can't do that because there are other concerns and, other departments to be, to look at. So, I mean, there are issues that, you'll look at, a big picture, and then you could, look in and figure, look at a big picture, understand it. So, I mean, if anybody wants to meet, we'll, any of us will be happy to do that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm prepared to make a decision tonight, and if not, then what is the process that we're going to follow to make a different decision tonight? I think we had an opportunity to review the applicants, get some information, have some presented from them, and make a decision. I don't know if the rest of the board is ready to do that. I am. But if we are not, what's the process?
The process would be
2 weeks.
Yes.
Has to happen in 2 weeks.
Yes, so we could have an ad hoc committee, look at all the applications and then review them. Look at, if we have any concerns, again, if we wanna, if we see something, we wanna discuss it with the candidate or give the candidates an opportunity to talk with us over the next 2 weeks, because if that's, what they're interested, let them think about based on what the discussion that we have, if they're still, interested in moving forward. We do that, and then we'll come back on next meeting, which would be October 15th, and then we could make a recommendation to the board, and then the board could decide. We let the general manager know, and general manager then could contact the county's supervisors to a board to let them know what our recommendation is. I just feel like there was there wasn't much of communications between the candidates and us and the general manager, so it's just, for me, it's hard to make that, it's just really hard for me to make that decision.
I can't see having an ad hoc committee, talk to the people and then coming back to me, unless I'm part of the ad hoc committee. I gotta rely on 2 other people. We've heard all of their stories tonight. The only way that I guess I would be willing to postpone it till the next meeting is if the candidates would be willing to talk to us all individually during the next 2 weeks. Then I can think we all can get a sense of any questions that weren't answered tonight. They could understand more about what's going on with the board. But I would disagree with an ad hoc committee, because I don't think it would be, in this case, it would be useful.
Okay.
And I think I could probably make a decision tonight also, but I'll go along with what the rest of the board would want.
Okay, well, if you are open, you like to make a decision.
From my perspective, I think if candidates do want to communicate with us directly, and they want the 2 weeks to identify more information about it, then we want to hear from you all about that. Or if you're prepared for us just to make a decision, then we can move in that favor as well.
I would like to see all of the candidates, or at least the majority, wanting to do this. It's not gonna work if only one or even maybe 2 say they want to be with us and the rest don't. So, I think it's gonna be a lot up to the candidates also.
I think there's some value in having an ad hoc committee, and I'll explain why, is that, because I'm hearing from the candidates, it seemed unanimous that a lot of people didn't fully understand the process and may perhaps would have gone through the nomination period, but was a little cumbersome and more not understood in terms of what that time frame was. But obviously they saw the communication that the general manager put out, and hence the reason why you're here. But I'm not sure that everyone fully understands the role of the TCSD, having not spoken to the general manager or any board members. So I think that there would be an opportunity to seek more information. And upon seeking more information, and maybe that some of these candidates may say, oh, I'm going to withdraw my candidacy. And I think that's important for us to filter out, to make sure that people understand what they are signing up for, and understand the role so that they can commit to the 4 years. I don't think we want to keep going through this. So I think there would be some value. Problem is we only really have a week in which to do it, to really kind of get information compiled. But I think it would be beneficial to provide information about what is our funding? Where does the money come for the district? You know, we don't get sales tax revenue. We only get property tax revenue. And that's to fund park and rec, streetlights, drainage, and the fire department. For the utilities, it's through rate paying. But it is limited in terms of what we get because the county does withhold that. So it'd be important for that to be made known and clarify, and then also to have a discussion about, you know, our strategic plan. What are our pain points? We ask them what do they think our pain points are? I think it would be helpful for us to explain that. I think the more information they have, the better they will understand what the role is. And it'll give us an opportunity to have more dialogue with them to feel comfortable with the candidate that we're going to choose.
But that can be done if the candidates meet individually. I thought it worked very well the last time we did it, as far as, well, you're talking about the results.
So I can support, again, I'm ready to make a decision tonight, but I can support a committee. I'm not available for that committee, but I would want to make sure that we had some kind of a process where when people came up, you had we had a ranking of some
A
kind.
criteria.
A criteria and
It's
a
some-
ranking
yeah,
so
with
that,
RFP, yeah.
when we come through with it, there's a decision with some good information about who is the best candidate.
Yeah.
You know,
I would agree.
and so I would only support this as some kind of criteria.
I would agree with that. And I'm also not available because I won't be here. I'm gonna be out of town until next Wednesday, so.
Well, I'm available.
You know.
And the criteria, one, are they interested? I mean, we only have 4 candidates at this point because 2. And then one, are those candidates available and are they willing to do this? Are they willing to go through this? There need to be some checks where we say yes, 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 or no, where we can actually go through a process.
I also would like to hear from our general manager on what his thoughts might be.
General manager?
Excuse me. I mean, you have until October 16th to submit a recommendation to the County Board of Supervisors. So you could go through this process. Do keep in or a process like establishing an ad hoc committee to, but if an ad hoc committee is established by the board tonight, the criteria for what that committee should be made clear to the committee. There will not be much time. So, for example, you do run some risk that one or more of these candidates may be put off by this additional requirements to meet or provide information, and you may end up losing a candidate or two through that process. I don't know. I think that's particularly the case if there were a pretty structured process, because again, you would have essentially 2 weeks for an ad hoc committee to meet, conduct whatever interview or questioning or ranking were required, and then report back to the board on October 15th with its recommendation. Of course, then still at that point, the board would have to make the recommendation. They wouldn't be obligated to adhere to the ad hoc committee's recommendation. So anyway, I think that's the only con is that the time is kind of short, 2 weeks, and we already lost a couple candidates, it would appear. And that's what I would see as the cons or the risks of going through this additional process. But you are able to.
Well, there is another benefit to doing this, is that this could serve as a template for the future, because this isn't the first time that we've been faced with this. But if we have a set criteria and a process that is established for how we go about evaluating candidates, maybe when these applications come in, there's a process of reaching out. But I think it would be important to establish what that criteria is and that process.
But do we have time to do that? 2 weeks.
Yeah, do we have, I would say, let's just make that tonight. Do we have two members who are willing to do that? And the two members who have time within the next few days? And then, do we have the availability of the general manager? And then, do we have some kind of well, I would want to make sure we had some kind of structural process in place. So. And so I.
And are the candidates willing to do that?
And are willing, Ken is willing to do that. Ask them tonight, are you willing?
I was about to ask, go ahead.
No, I'm willing to do it. I would, the more I listen to what's going on, I would pull my application if I did not meet with you guys. I don't think that would be fair to sign up for a position where I'm finding out that I know a lot less about it than I thought, what I read on the paper. So I'm willing to, whether it's in person or over Zoom or online, I'm willing to make the commitment. 15, 20 minutes, whatever needed, it's not that much time. Versus 4 years or 2 years down the road and say, no, I don't like this. On out. I think 15 minutes would be worth my while as an investment to see whether I'm gonna be, it's fit for me now or maybe in the future.
Any other comments?
I'd be willing to submit to, an interview or whatever type of, a meeting. This doesn't sound like you guys know what you really wanna do next. I mean, I'm available, any questions you wanna ask or conversations? I'm fairly comfortable, I'm pretty adept at what you guys are doing here tonight. You have a general manager who is running a very good city operation and you need to oversee, make decisions. I don't know what else I'm gonna learn by question and answering. I'm pretty much familiar with what this district does. Luckily, we've been not in the news like the San Simeon district that part. But I am available. I just kind of see you guys at such a
Well, it's
having to make this formal decision and
well, it's a difficult
yes.
It's a difficult decision, because, normally residents of Templeton make this decision, you know? You go out there, you campaign, people get to know you.
I've never had anybody come to my door campaigning in this town.
You didn't get our flag?
How long?
Yeah.
5 years, 5
Kind
years,
of 16,
How long have you lived
20.
in?
5 years.
Okay,
Nobody's come to my door campaigning.
well, it goes way back in, I'll tell you how old I am, but back in 2012, there were 7 candidates running for 3 positions.
Oh gee.
I was one of them and I lost. He was one of them and he won. 2 years later, they had, I think, 5 or 6 candidates running for 2 positions. And then I won that one, and then the next year when we have 2 of our board
Yeah,
members,
it's like-
2016,
We have.
there were 4 or 5 running for 3. For 3, they were appointed on.
No, we were elected.
Anyway, and then after that,
Same thing
it
with
started
20.
going downhill.
Number 20, there was an election in 2020.
So the last,
Campaign,
yeah,
we
so
went
2016.
We have
and
flyers.
2020.
Yeah.
But it was like they had talked about, they had panels where the community would come and listen to the League of Women Voters would be here. They ask everybody questions. Newspaper people would be calling you, they have to write up stuff to give to them. I mean, it was looked like a real election, because this is about the smallest governmental agency you'll ever find is a TFCD, so.
And maybe that's just part of what the issue is. We're small and nobody really, and it runs well. So, there's no real major issues that have gone on.
And my other comment is, I wanna be when you guys talk to somebody and you can explain everything in 15 minutes. I wanna be at that meeting. No offense, I'm just.
We have 3 that had made comments, but.
Yes.
Go work.
To be frank, I feel like I've done research. I've read your strategic plan that was prepared in 2020. I've reviewed the last 3 fiscal reports and the budgets. I've worked in government for 10 years. I don't know how much more I will glean from a quick meeting with any of you. And again, my personal opinion was, I didn't want, one of the weaknesses that was articulated in the strategic plan was, I don't want to say board infighting, but it was articulated that clashing of opinions had been a challenge for the board in the past. And so for that reason, I wanted to educate myself based upon the materials that were available rather than a personal conversation that could potentially cloud or bias me or the board. So I don't know that I will be available in the next week for a future step.
Do we have a majority to make a decision?
It's,
I'm,
so you like to make the decision tonight? Okay,
I've said that already.
okay,
so
all right, well,
Is there any other board member who's willing to make?
well, you can make a motion if you like.
I'm willing to make a
You can make a
decision.
motion and we'll see if that's a second.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, I am willing to move tonight, the appointment of, it's actually a recommendation to the County Board of Supervisors, because we don't control this, for Chelsea Turin to be appointed. She has done a pretty substantial amount of work and has research, has some really interesting ideas, and in my opinion, made a decision tonight that she's committed to making commitment to the TCSD. So I would move that position.
One second.
Roll call.
Directors English,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Logan,
Aye.
Mortensen,
Yes.
and Bardonish.
No. I'm just not. Hey, nothing against you. I'm just not. This is one of those, you know, there's
Yeah.
majority rules.
Yeah. Differences of board opinion.
Okay,
I would suggest, I know it's not on the agenda, but that we do come up with a better plan in the future. And so we should probably put it on the agenda sometime within the next year or so.
To have a template of how we
To
evaluate.
have a process, because it's really very difficult to get a 5-paragraph or 3-paragraph. Okay, this is nice. We don't know you guys from Adam. You don't know us from Adam. And, you know, and we're gonna have to work together for the next 4 years. So it's really not the ideal way to do this, but anyway, we did it, so.
Can I
Congratulations.
say something? Can I say something?
And thank you all for coming and being involved.
Good night.
Is it,
Thank you.
is it an option for you guys to contact them when you get the application? Is that options or not?
Well, I think that's what Director Peterson is recommending, is that we come up with what that process would look like.
I don't know if that's legal or if you're allowed to.
No,
but-
it would be something that would be put on the agenda.
okay. All right, thank you. Okay, general manager's report.
Excuse me, good evening again. Just a loosely related item. You may recall in August, you made a couple of appointments to the Admin and Finance Committee. Laura Edie, who was the alternate to that committee, has resigned. And I believe the issue is not wishing to submit the Form 700 statement of financial disclosures as an alternate. So she's been advised that, of course, she can participate as a member of the public, but not be able to cast a vote in the absence of the primary resident. And then I just, excuse me. I wanted to also notate that you may recall that fairly recently, the board of directors here approved a budget amendment and authorized the use of those funds for the Nacimiento Recharge and Recovery Project to have the County of San Luis Obispo initiate the design of that work. That was based upon the county staff's pushing that project forward to the Board of Supervisors with the understanding that FEMA was considering reimbursing the majority of the costs. There's been a slight delay, hopefully nothing more than a slight delay, but FEMA has initiated some higher level of review of that project, and so that's been delayed at the county. Has not gone forward to the Board of Supervisors just yet. There's another meeting with the county, with our staff in the county on Friday morning to review some options. So we'll certainly keep you posted. I don't think this means FEMA has denied that project, but rather has asked for some additional review. Some folks that weren't reviewing it initially. And again, this all relates to relocating the turnout, since the primary turnout was damaged or shown to be at risk from the January 2023 storms. Those are the items that I notated today to mention to you.
Thank you. Any questions for General Manager?
No.
No questions from public for General Manager? Okay, great. Thank you. Committee reports, we have TAG report. Any questions on that? Nope. Public, any questions on the TAG report? Okay, thank you. Activity update reports, let's start with engineering. Any questions on the engineering from the board? Public, any comments or questions on engineering? No? Okay. Finance, any questions on finance? From the board? No? Public?
I had the question on the finance, it said that there's quite a bit of in arrears of people not paying their bills. Is it?
The 11,900.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there, what is there? Why can't we, send it to collections or something to get that paid up?
No.
Seems like a lot of money to me.
It's a good question. I'll refer you to, let the general manager speak up. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, essentially state law prohibits us from proceeding with collection efforts until people are at least 60 days in arrears. And so that report would indicate persons that are, behind, but not more than 60 days. We cannot shut off water service unless they're at least 60 days behind.
Yeah, the state law changed a couple of years ago. It was actually probably after COVID, and it used to be a lot less, but now it's more so.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Fire and emergency services. Any questions on that from the board? Okay, I do have a couple of questions. One, I just want to make a comment of all these items that the fire department has handled. They've done a great job for us, so we appreciate it. We appreciate having our wonderful fire department. So that's great. The question I have though is what is the significance of us not being able to receive the grant for the SCBA's in the amount of $228,000?
I can take a stab at answering that for you. Essentially, we have an identified need to replace aging SCBA's or self-contained breathing apparatus units. And we have been pursuing grant funding, several different sources, and will continue to do so. But if we're unable to get a grant funding source and it's determined that the expenditure is critical, then it'll be a budget item for the district to consider.
Okay, so when would we need to consider this amount?
Yeah, I don't know offhand within the next year or two.
And where are we going to get this money? I mean, it's coming from the operational budget.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from the public? Fire? Okay. Parks, recreation and solid waste. Any questions?
I would like to just put a plug in tonight for the Living the Dream event. For those in the community who are not aware, we do a large fundraiser for the rec department. It's on October 26th. It's actually in Pardon me?
Is it the Comfort? No, it's not Comfort in the hotel.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to remember. The name of the hotel, I don't have that in front of me, but it's Springfield Inn.
Yeah,
Springfield Inn, and I encourage you, if you're available, to come and participate. It's one of our big fundraisers. And TRF, the Templeton Rec Foundation, is co-sponsoring that. So encourage folks to participate. That was it.
Thank you. Any questions from public on the update on the report from on Parks Recreation?
Yeah, I did, sorry about that. We had some improvements to the park. The new fence was put up, the new German sign was put up, and we got a new tractor. So it's that's one that the tool will be used for many, many years by our rec department, so.
That's true. Thank you. Utilities are, utilities, any questions on board about water consumption, the wells? Everything good there? Okay, from public, any questions?
I was curious, that the land that they're thinking about you putting a hotel in, they drilled a
Yes.
well over there. Is that gonna be used by the?
Are you talking about the one on Main Street?
Yes.
Okay,
Is that well gonna be contributing to the community's water supply, or is that?
It's basically, is a riparian, so go ahead, General Manager.
Yeah, that well was drilled for irrigation purposes on the site. However, it may also lead, it's leading to a riparian agency agreement study where the property owner may be able to allocate water that they have riparian access to the district for providing it back to the same site. I probably made that more confusing than it should have been, but we have several properties where the property overlies other riparian sources. And in some cases, these property owners have reached agreement with the district to assign some of that water right from those riparian sources for their own benefit using the district's potable water system. So in those scenarios, they essentially bring their own supply. But not all properties within the district, or most properties, are not eligible for such a arrangement because you have to overlie like alongside the Salinas River or a creek. So that property there is going through one of those riparian agency agreement studies right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Thank you. All right, that's done. Directors report and or comments. Any directors involved in any activity that they like to share with the board? No? Okay.
I did have a question, General Manager, I should have brought it up earlier, mentioned that there was someone who chose not to continue with a committee. Will that mean that there's an opportunity for a committee position?
That was an alternate. It was an alternate, so you're still coming. Even after.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have a committee from resident.
Well, it does bring to mind is someone else in the room in the public might be interested in serving in that alternate role.
Yes, so we do have committees available for anybody that's interested. Actually, I guess Finance Committee could have an alternate, but if you're interested, you could apply to talk with the General Manager in terms of different committee assignments. Okay.
And excuse me, on that note, the board's free to continue to make appointments to committees, of course, this year, but we would expect to do this process each December for appointments in January for the following year. And since we're already kind of close to the end of the year, I hadn't anticipated recruiting and appointing for the remainder of this year.
Okay, so in a couple of months, in December, you guys could apply for any. We have finance. If you want to go over the committees, I would appreciate it, General Manager.
Sure. So the committees are Administration and Finance, Parks, Recreation and Refuse, Fire and Emergency Management, and Water and Wastewater Utilities.
Great, thank you. That concludes our meeting, and we will be going into closed session at this point. So